Time for government orders has expired. The honourable member from Etobicoke Centre will have 5 minutes remaining when this matter returns before the House. Déclaration de député, statements by members. Back to the honourable member for Etobicoke Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the 8th of May 1945, the Second World War ended in Europe. It began on the 1st of September 1939 when Nazi Germany attacked Poland, later joined by the Soviet Union, their infamy consummated by the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. World War II unleashed evil upon an unimaginable scale with a cost so high it's still difficult to comprehend. The Holocaust, Stalin's gulags, the rape and slaughter of millions, forced deportations, the assault on language, culture, and national identities. The war ended and a new Cold War began with half of Europe shrouded in darkness until communism was defeated. Today, Vladimir Putin threatens global peace and security once again as he wages an illegal war in Ukraine and annexes territory, just like Hitler did. World War II provided us with many lessons, and those remain relevant today, and we should listen. It is fitting that the commemoration of the war's end takes place where it began, in Poland. It is our solemn duty to Zahor to remember the sacrifices of those who fought and those who perished for our freedom, and never again allow evil to flourish. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Alfred Pellin. I'm proud to highlight today the International Day of the Midwife, which was started in 1992 by the World Health Organization to talk about the important work done by midwives around the world. The work of midwives is key to the health of women and babies during pregnancy, during childbirth, and afterward. There are some 1,300 midwives in Canada, more every year, and there is rigorous training that helps them reach the international standard and be recognized around the world. And that's why I introduced a bill which will make May 5th the National Day of the Midwife, and it was unanimously passed by this House. We need to recognize the work of midwives, and I want to thank the Canadian Association, the National Aboriginal Council, the Quebec Council for their support. Thank you.
The honourable member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia.
Mr. Speaker, most baby boomers will not die on the golf course. Nobody lives forever. Some people listening probably believe Elvis is still alive, or that they'll have a second chance as a zombie. A lot of young people these days fantasize about becoming immortal vampires. Personally, I would not want that hickey. A rare few will live long and prosperous lives and die in their 90s while having sex with their bride of 65 years. Some people may end up in a situation like Sue Rodriguez, a victim of ALS. She asked Canadians, if I cannot give consent to my own death, whose body is this? Who owns my life? On February 6th, 2015, the Supreme Court yelled back to Sue, "It's your life, Sue. You decide your fate." And with that, physician-assisted death became legal in Canada. Let's talk about it.
The honourable member for Ottawa-Vanier. Mr. Speaker, as a proud alumnus of the University of Ottawa, I want to draw your attention to the week that's been officially proclaimed by the City of Ottawa to celebrate the alumni of the University of Ottawa. There were some 92,000 alumni here in the region. It is 50 years since the University of Ottawa became a public institution. My alma mater is now recognized around the world as a research and teaching institution and as the largest bilingual English-French university in the world.
And all fellow citizens of our region to celebrate the success of this institution and its contribution to our economy. I invite you, Mr. Speaker, a U of Ottawa alumnus, to proudly wear our school colours, garnet and grey, which I'm wearing today. I also invite MPs to join Alex Trebek, another proud alumnus of the university, to a reception in our Speaker's Lounge following today's question period. À bientôt donc. He may have some questions for you to answer. Merci.
Honourable member for Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, I had the pleasure over the weekend to meet up with 4 separate groups of volunteers from my great riding of Yellowhead. These groups were from Carrot Creek and Piers 4-H clubs, and the Edsons Holy Redeemers High School Travel Club and their local football club. The volunteers started as early as 6 a.m. to clean up highways around Alberta, and especially around my riding, so that my part of Alberta is kept clean and beautiful. Parents, teachers, and students all participated in this great community effort. Mr. Speaker, I had the opportunity to drive to several spots where the cleanups were being done, and I was able to meet and greet with the kids, parents, and teachers. I applaud them for their community spirit, their time, and that of others that work to make our country a great place to live. My sincere thanks goes out to all volunteers around Canada.
The honourable member for Compton-Stansted. I would first like to pay tribute to a friend and collaborator, André No, who has died. He was an environmentalist from the early days, and he helped found the Friends of the Earth.
To welcome the great member for Sackville Eastern Shore in Compton-Stansted. We spoke to veterans from all across my riding and visited various sites. For instance, the Ogden's Weir Memorial Park in honor of Robert Stanley Weir, who wrote the English version of our national anthem. The Hatley Village, where over 3,000 people attend each year one of the oldest Canada Day parade. We also pay tribute to Louis Saint Laurent, Canada's 12th Prime Minister, born and raised in Compton, where he was buried in 1973. I would also like to pay tribute to a fantastic man, Mr. David Woodard, who devoted most of his life helping veterans. For over 35 years, as a Royal Canadian Legion Branch No. 5, he helped many and continues to do so. Mr. Woodard is celebrating his 63rd birthday today, so happy birthday, David, and many thanks for your work.
The honourable member for Ancaster, Dundas, Flamborough, Westdale.
Mr. Speaker, with the spectacular spring weather we've been having here in Ottawa this week, the tulips are starting to bloom. And that is very appropriate because today is Dutch Liberation Day. It was on May 5th, 1945 that the Nazis surrendered Holland to the mighty advancing Canadian troops, thereby ending 5 years of occupation. Mr. Speaker, as we recognize the 70th anniversary of these defining moments of our history, we enjoy the bright colours of tulips here in Ottawa. They are a symbol of the enduring friendship between Canada and the Netherlands, a symbol of freedom and liberation, and a source of pride for all Canadians. Mr. Speaker, we are also proud to see many Canadian flags when the Prime Minister visited this past weekend as well. However, Mr. Speaker, along with tulips and flags, ours is a mutual friendship and partnership. Canada has benefited greatly from the courage, industriousness, and creativity of the Dutch people who came here following World War II and who gave birth to new generations of Canadians since. I'm blessed to have many constituents of Dutch descent in my community, and we're very mindful of them today, as well as our brave veterans who fought valiantly as we recognize this important anniversary in our respective histories.
The member for Calgary East.
Mr. Speaker, the situation in the Maldives is a cause of concern to Canada. Canada condemns the crackdown by the Maldives government and its lack of respect for democracy. We are appalled by the trial and treatment of former President Mohamed Nasheed. An effective review of the investigation and legal proceedings is significant to ensure that international and domestic obligations related to fair trials and the rule of law are respected. We are also concerned that the opposition leaders have been arrested, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these actions go against the core principles of the Commonwealth, and Canada will continue to call on the Maldives to reaffirm its commitment to democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. Canada stands with the Maldivian people who have peacefully congregated to call for the release of political prisoners and restoration of the rule of law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Beaches, East York.
Mr. Speaker, in Toronto, people are waiting on buses that take forever, waiting on platforms for the morning train that will arrive already full. But before relief comes for the public, billions will go to the 1 in 10 families eligible for income splitting. Hundreds of millions will be sheltered by those who have money enough to shelter. And when new federal funding for transit finally arrives, Toronto's share will be a small package wrapped in red tape, enough to put a few buses on the road or perhaps a boring machine in the ground, but not both. Transit underinvestment in Toronto has been costly to date, and without consideration for the future of a city region expected to grow by 2.5 million people and add 1.5 million jobs over the next decade and a half. My city, Mr. Speaker, is a globally relevant city with great potential, not just for itself and those who live there, but for all of Canada. And yet nowhere to be found in the city of Toronto is the Government of Canada. That, Mr. Speaker, has to change if Toronto is to become all that Toronto should be.
The honourable member for Glengarry Prescott Russell.
Mr. Speaker, May 5th marks the 70th anniversary of Liberation Day, which was the day when the Nazi forces occupying the Netherlands were forced to withdraw and a famished, war-ravaged country was liberated. During the offensive, which lasted 9 months, over 7,600 Canadians lost their lives and many more were wounded.
Far away from the homes and families they left behind. Today, the bonds of mutual respect and friendship between our communities endure and our countries endure, forged by the sacrifices made in the name of freedom and strengthened by our shared values of freedom, democracy, and rule of law. To the Canadian veterans who played such a crucial role in the liberation of the Netherlands, we will never forget your sacrifice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Sackville Eastern Shore.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Today, throughout the Netherlands, people are celebrating and commemorating what happened 70 years ago at the liberation of the Netherlands at the hands of the Canadians and her allies. And, Mr. Speaker, as a Dutch-born parliamentarian, I am very proud to stand on behalf of my family and on behalf of my colleague from Sydney, Victoria, and his family, and all the other Dutch members of Parliament here, Mr. Speaker, to say once again, thank you to the 1 million Canadians who wore the uniform of Canada, who liberated my parents. In fact, Mr. Speaker, it was because of that military that my father said, if they have a military like that, can you imagine what kind of country they come from? And one of those heroes, Mr. Speaker, was featured on CBC last night, the great Ed Carter Edwards, who was a pilot shot down and interned in Buchenwald. Last night on CBC, they told his very poignant story. And at the end, Mr. Speaker, he said he'll never forget, but maybe he'll forgive. And on behalf of the Royal Canadian Legion and all veterans organizations who keep alive the memories of those veterans, I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to so many.
The honourable member for Brampton West.
Mr. Speaker, our low tax plan for families is working. Under our Conservative government, the tax burden on Canadians is at its lowest level in more than 50 years. As part of that, every family with children will benefit from our new family tax cut and enhanced universal child care benefit. The leader of the Liberal Party told us yesterday that he would take away our family tax cut and replace it with a family tax hike. The Liberal leader is also ideologically opposed to income splitting. And quite frankly, seniors should be worried. That is why Canadians know it is only our government that can be trusted to keep taxes low and protect the benefits they already receive.
The honourable member for Cardigan.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate all candidates who put their names on the ballots for yesterday's election in Prince Edward Island. Last month has been filled with hard-working campaigns on all sides in every corner of the province, and I know members of this House are looking forward to working together with all the new island MLAs. I want to sincerely congratulate Premier Wade McLaughlin and his team. The Premier has been gracious and optimistic throughout the campaign and will be a true champion for the people of Prince Edward Island, focusing on prosperity, engagement, and helping our small province stand tall within our great country and around the world. On behalf of all members of this House of Commons, congratulations to Premier McLaughlin, the new Liberal government of Prince Edward Island, and all members of the Prince Edward Island Provincial Legislature. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lotbinière, Chute-la-Chaudière. Mr. Speaker, The leader of the Liberal Party introduced the high tax plan for middle-class Canadians yesterday. Instead of a family tax cut, he's proposing a family tax hike. The Liberal leader is promising to scrap the universal child care benefit, which Liberals have long said parents blow on beer and popcorn. The Liberal leader confirmed that he will raise taxes on families earning less than $60,000 who use the TFSA to save their money. Middle-class Canadian families know they can trust the Prime Minister and our Conservative government to keep their taxes low and to protect the benefits they already receive. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Neigette-Témiscamingue-Lac Basque. If there's one thing Canadians won't stand for, its hypocrisy, and that's why they were surprised to see the member for Beauséjour attack the labour rights of NDP staff. The same week that the Liberal leader was courting the union vote. Well, they found out you can't have it both ways. Either you protect labour rights consistently, regardless of what the polls say, or you use pointless rhetoric and then change your mind. The Liberals have made their choice. To quote Jerry Diaz, the president of Unifor, the House leader's comments give the impression that labor rights can be disregarded for cheap political theater, and that's wrong.
The honourable member for Nipissing-Témiscamingue.
Mr. Speaker, our government's family tax cut and enhanced universal child care benefit will benefit 100% of families with kids. The vast majority of benefits go to low and middle income families. The leader of the Liberal Party plans to take all this away. Instead of giving the majority of low and middle income families a break, he will be taxing middle class families, taxing small businesses, and taxing seniors. Mr. Speaker, the opposition's position is clear. Raise taxes on the middle class. That is why we're the only ones Canadians can trust to lower taxes and balance the budget. The good people of Nipissing-Témiscamingue know our family tax cuts lower their taxes. The Liberal tax plan or hike increases their taxes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The honourable member for Halifax.
Mr. Speaker, numbers don't lie. The Conservatives' economic policy doesn't lead us anywhere. Canada's trade deficit has risen to $3 billion on the Conservatives' watch. Their economic policies simply reduce the competitive margin of Canadian businesses and harm the creation of good jobs. Will the Conservatives fix the problem? What is their plan to reduce the trade deficit? Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Or to advance Canada's trading relationships. Absolutely. We've concluded trade agreements with 38 different countries over 9 years. What's more, last year's Canada's trade surplus was $5.2 billion, which was a turnaround of $12 billion. And exports last year were up another 10% from the previous year. Our government remains focused on creating jobs through aggressive trade promotion, while, of course, the NDP wants to raise taxes on the middle class. That's not what we're going to do.
The honourable member for Halifax.
The Conservative economic plan is failing Canada because under their mismanagement, we just posted another record trade deficit, soaring to $3 billion for March alone. The Conservative plan is also failing families who face layoffs and growing job uncertainty while struggling with rising costs. And still, the Conservatives have no plan to create even a single affordable childcare space. When will the Conservatives stop ignoring the needs of Canadian families and deliver the NDP's plan for $15 a day childcare?
The Honourable Minister of State.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what we recognize is that families across this country have a variety of childcare needs. We refuse to dictate to Canadian families how they should be looking after their children. We refuse to say that if you're not using a licensed daycare spot, you don't deserve support. That is not what we're saying. That's what the NDP say. What we're saying is every family in this country with children deserves support. That's what we're delivering in tax cuts, in direct benefits, and in other tax benefits, like our Child's Fitness tax credit. We're supporting families. We're supporting their right to choose how they look after their children.
The honourable member for Halifax.
both the ultimate parties of tax gifts for the wealthy instead of creating affordable childcare spaces. Right. While our trade deficit is soaring, imports of industrial machinery actually fell. That's a bad sign for manufacturing sector that suffered from conservative neglect. We have lost more than 400,000 jobs under their watch alone. Fewer good manufacturing jobs means more families are struggling to pay the bills as costs like childcare continue to rise. Will the Conservatives scrap handouts to the wealthy and instead invest in boosting job creation and creating affordable childcare spaces?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, on the subject of manufacturing, of course, in this year's budget, we put forward accelerated capital cost allowance that's been called for by the manufacturing sector for a long time. And while New Democrats may not like our policies when it comes to manufacturing, here's who is endorsing our budget: the Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters, the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association, the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, the Railway Association of Canada, the Canadian Steel Producers Association, the Agricultural Manufacturers of Canada, the Canadian Plastics Industry Association, the Canadian Tooling and Machining Association. I could go on, Mr. Speaker, but those who know what it takes to build manufacturing in Canada support this government, support our budget.
The Honourable Member for Alfred Pellan.
He put forward amendments to scrap every provision of C-51. Yet, Liberals and Conservatives voted to push C-51 ahead without any changes. Legal experts, eminent Canadians, former Prime Minister, all said this bill is dangerous, it shouldn't go forward as is. How can Conservatives who claim to stand up for individual freedoms, and how can Liberals who say they defend the Charter continue to stand up and vote in favour of a bill that is so seriously flawed?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, the real question is how can the NDP refuse to give tools to our police forces to ensure the protection of Canadians, Mr. Speaker? How can they deny the fact that there were terrorist attacks in Canada over the past 6 months? The truth, Mr. Speaker, is that we as a government are going to continue to take responsible and balanced measures to protect Canadians against the terrorist threat. The Honourable Member for Alfred Pellan. Citizens, Aboriginal communities, unions, business people, experts, former prime ministers, and the list goes on. Everyone agrees that C-51 is a dangerous and useless bill. And yet that did not prevent the Liberals and the Conservatives to rise yesterday in this House to vote against NDP amendments to scrap the most controversial sections of the bill. Mr. Speaker, tomorrow evening will be the final vote on this bill. How can the Conservatives and Liberals continue to vote for such a controversial bill? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Months of hearings and works and debate, Mr. Speaker. After hearing the sister of Warrant Officer Patrice Vincent, Mr. Speaker, and stakeholders, Mr. Speaker, from all over the country, Mr. Speaker, the NDP are still opposing measures to keep Canadians safe, Mr. Speaker. We know what is right, we know what to do, and we will do it. Stay tuned, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Beausejour. Mr. Speaker, it is clear that measures are needed to help families and the middle class who are continuing to become more heavily indebted under this Conservative government. We can reduce their taxes and offer more significant, simple, and fair benefits than offered by this government. So why are the Conservatives helping out people who have $10,000 to spare instead of helping out families who are continuing to become more indebted under this government? The Honourable Minister of Employment. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the Liberal leader announced that he was going to raise taxes for people who earn less than $60,000 by eliminating the doubling of the TFSA. He also wanted to replace our family tax cut with a tax hike. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal leader is going to take money away from families and hike their taxes while we do exactly the opposite.
Canada.
Mr. Speaker, only a third of Canadians can afford a TFSA. Fewer than a quarter of that third can afford to max out. So it's a tool focused on 8% of Canadians. The other 92% are nowhere close. To help them, the vast majority, to help 9 out of 10 Canadian families, why not cut the middle-class tax rate right across the board, Why not give those families a bigger child benefit, clean, simple, fair, tax-free, right across the board? Why not?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Liberal leader admitted that his plan for higher taxes has a $2 billion hole in it. The Liberal leader admitted that he will have to raise taxes on people earning less than $60,000 a year by canceling their expanded tax-free savings accounts. He admitted that he would replace the Conservative family tax cut with a Liberal family tax increase. He admitted that he would get rid of the universal child care benefit, yet he also admitted that after all those tax hikes, he would still have a $2 billion hole, which he would need to cancel pension splitting for seniors in order to fill.
The Honourable Member for Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, just repeating a falsehood doesn't make it true. Canadians are mocking this minister. They don't believe a word he says. He cannot justify why this tired government is against a big middle-class tax cut. He can't justify why they're against a better child benefit. Bigger, fairer, absolutely tax-free for every middle-class family and all those trying to get there. He punishes single moms and dads but gives a $2,000 tax break to those earning $250,000. Why? Yeah.
Order. The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Yesterday, the Liberal leader admitted he would raise taxes on people earning less than $60,000 a year. In fact, two-thirds of those who've maxed out their tax-free savings accounts earn less than $60,000 a year. The Liberal leader admitted that he would cancel the Conservative family tax cut and replace it with the Liberal family tax increase by cancelling income splitting for parents. He would also have to cancel income splitting for seniors in order to help make up for the $2 billion hole that the Liberal leader admits is in his plan.
Members need to come to order. It's becoming increasingly difficult to hear both the questions and the answers. A little bit of order, please.
The Honourable Member for Paul-Neuf-Jacques-Cartier. During his most recent visit to Iraq, the Prime Minister prohibited journalists from publishing pictures of the soldiers of our special forces for security reasons. But it was all right for him to publish those photos for propaganda purposes. Once the problem was pointed out, the video was removed from the web, but now they are discussing putting it back online. This is shameful, Mr. Speaker. Does he realize that by putting this promotional video on his website, he is endangering the safety of our soldiers? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the safety of our troops is our #1 priority. Hear, hear. For this reason, there are protocols in place before images or videos are posted. Where concerns were raised about a few specific images, these were taken down immediately so we could review the protocols were properly applied. After a second review, it became apparent that 2 of these videos should not have been posted. We regret the error and reviewing all protocols with respect to the publication of such images.
Member for St. John's East.
Reviewing them, they should be following them, Mr. Speaker. While on this tour in Iraq and Kuwait, Canadian media signed and respected the directive from DND not to publish images of Special Forces soldiers for security reasons, but the Prime Minister's office didn't and posted a series of videos showing the faces of Canadian soldiers. We gather that these videos have been pulled down for now, but there remains a simple question. Why is the Prime Minister's office breaking rules intended to protect the safety of our forces just to make promotional videos for the Prime Minister? And who over there is going to take responsibility for this fiasco?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, as I just said, we regret this error. These images were taken down. They will not be reposted. And I can tell you that we are very proud of our members of the Special Operations Forces who are stationed in Erbil in northern Iraq, who are aiding and assisting with Iraqi security forces and the Kurdish Peshmerga to ensure that we are able to defend that region and protect Canadians from the Islamic State as a death cult who have a genocidal tendency.
Member for St. John's East.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Parliamentary Secretary acknowledged that the Canadian Forces National Investigative Service looked into allegations of prisoner mistreatment in Afghanistan in 2010 and 2011, and according to him, there was no mistreatment. Now it appears there was a second investigation, this one by Lieutenant Colonel Sylvie Baudry, requested by the Provost Marshal. Was the Minister aware of this second investigation and report, and what were its conclusions?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
As I stated yesterday, Mr. Speaker, the government is aware of these investigations. This happened several years ago. They found that there is no grounds for any charges to be laid. We've always said that we do not approve of any misconduct by military members, but I can tell you that the members of the Canadian Armed Forces consistently demonstrate tremendous professionalism, in particular with respect to protecting and promoting human rights and dealing with under international law when they're dealing with prisoners of war.
Honourable member for St. John's,
Mr. Speaker, there needs to be more transparency about these reports if they want the public's trust. There was also troubling news today, Mr. Speaker, about a directive by the Department of National Defence that would allow Canadian forces to seek out and share information, even if it could put someone in foreign custody at serious risk of torture. We already know that this directive, which violates Canada's international obligations, is in place for 4 other Canadian security agencies. Will the Minister immediately disclose the contents of the directives that he has given to the Department of National Defence?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there is no policy in place, as alluded to by the member. I can tell you that we always act in the utmost professionalism and ensure that the Canadian Armed Forces have the tools they need. And I just want to remind the member why we're over in Iraq and carrying out combat missions in Syria is because we believe that ISIL is a threat to us here in Canada. We will cooperate with our coalition partners to ensure that the ethnic and religious minorities who have been targeted by the ISIS are no longer submitted to their genocidal threats.
Honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. The Senate misuse of funds shows that this government has a management problem. We have learned that a dozen other senators are being investigated by the RCMP, and the Crown Attorney at the trial of former Senator Duffy is trying to prevent the AG's
donne une décision sur les questions comme ça sur ce sujet. Alors,
I think I've already issued a decision on this subject. The Honourable Member.
Speaker, I think you agree that it is the responsibility of government to ensure transparent accountability in all areas of spending. Now, this is very concerning since the Prime Minister himself made a promise to Canadians that he would clean up the backroom culture of corruption in Ottawa, but that hasn't happened. And now that we're seeing that we have at least 10 other senators who may have been involved in financial misconduct.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Despite Conservative spin, the numbers don't lie. Canada just posted a $3 billion record trade deficit in March, and this followed a $2 billion deficit in February. Wow. Now we see the Conservatives starting to cave in at the TPP table. After being asked to affirm his support for Canada's supply-managed sectors, the Prime Minister ducked, dodged, and dissembled. Will the government stand at this House and clearly tell Canadian consumers, farmers, and rural communities that it will completely defend Canada's dairy, poultry, and egg industries in all trade talks?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I've said many times in this House, our government continues to promote Canadian interests across all sectors and all regions of Canada at the TPP negotiating table. You know, that has never prevented us from actually securing trade agreements that protect our farmers, that promote the interests of our farmers. We make no apologies for ensuring that any deal reached must be in Canada's best interest. And as always, we will only sign an agreement that is indeed in Canada's best interest.
Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is clear we can't trust this government to defend the interests of Canadians. Farmers are not the only people who fear for the future of supply management in Canada. Quebec and Ontario agriculture ministers have called upon the Conservatives to pledge to defend supply management in the TPP talks. Will the Conservatives clearly state their support for supply management as Quebec and Ontario are calling for? The Honourable Minister of State. Unlike the NDP, Mr. Speaker, who do nothing to promote trade, we have signed agreements with over 38 countries, Mr. Speaker, since we came to power. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? We have already protected and promoted the supply management system, whether it be for poultry, eggs, milk. All of those producers are in a favourable position, and we will continue to defend the interests of all Canadian industries. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives do say one thing, but they do another. The Prime Minister's recent statements on the future of supply management in Canada are troubling for Quebec and Ontario. The Prime Minister has said that Canada will have to make difficult decisions as part of the Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations. He said that Canada cannot alone stop a deal from happening if we don't like it. So, Mr. Speaker, will the Conservatives defend supply management, yes or no? The Honourable Minister of State. Mr. Speaker, we need only look to the past. We have signed free trade agreements with numerous countries, including the European Union, South Korea, and we have always promoted the interests of all industries, all farming sectors, and I would urge the members of the opposition to vote in favor of these free trade agreements because freedom brings prosperity to this country.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives like to brag about the number of trade deals they've done, but they have just presided in March over the largest trade deficit of $3 billion in Canada's history. That makes for the first quarter a trade deficit of $7 billion. This weakness is especially worrying given StatsCan's recent report that businesses intend to cut R&D spending by 2.6% this year, a worrying indicator for the future. Numbers don't lie. So when will this government stop hiding behind absolutely ludicrous talking points on the TFSA and admit that its economic policies are failing Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we'll put up our record on trade up against the Liberals. Now, Mr. Speaker, the last time that the Liberals spoke seriously about trade was in 1993 when they were threatening to tear up the North American Free Trade Agreement. Today, their idea of trade is to legalize the illegal trade of marijuana. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we're standing up for law-abiding citizens.
The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, I have a very simple question for the government. The NDP has already spoken. They have said no. So, yes or no, are the Conservatives against increasing the taxes of Canadians who earn more than $200,000 in order to lower taxes for the middle class? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister of Employment. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals want to hike taxes on people who earn less than $60,000 per year. In fact, Mr. Speaker, two-thirds of people who maxed out their TFSA accounts earn less than $60,000 a year. So we do not agree with the Liberals' plan. We will not hike taxes on the middle class. We will reduce taxes by helping people to keep more of their hard-earned money. And we also oppose the Liberal plan to eliminate income splitting for seniors, Mr. Speaker. That is irresponsible.
Member for King's Lands. Speaker, the Liberal plan will help the middle class and those Canadians who are working hard to join it. It includes the Canada Child Benefit, a tax-free monthly benefit that is bigger, simpler, and fairer than the Conservative plan. Under the Liberal plan, a family with 2 children and an income of $45,000 will receive $4,000 per year, more than under the Conservatives. Under the Conservative plan, it's the wealthy who get the tax breaks. Why don't the Conservatives understand that you can do more for the people who need it if you do less for the people who don't?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal leader admitted yesterday that even after all of his tax increases, he will have a $2 billion hole in his plan. Even after he raises taxes on those people who use tax-free savings accounts, he will have a $2 billion hole. Even after he cancels the Conservative family tax cut and replaces it with a Liberal family tax hike, he will have a $2 billion hole. We know, Mr. Speaker, with this $2 billion hole, and I think that Alex Trebek would agree that under the Liberal tax increase, Canadians' paychecks are truly in jeopardy.
Honourable Member for Gatineau. Firemen today are often the first responders in dramatic situations. It is our duty to help them by training volunteer firemen and taking care of those who suffer from PTSD. Despite their promises, the Conservatives and the Liberals voted against the NDP's bill. The bill was aimed at offering protection to volunteer firemen who have to leave their work. Why does the government not care about the problem, and why are they abandoning these people who protect our lives on a daily basis? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud of being part of a government that has recognized PTSD among our federal employees, including the military. We have representatives of civil society on the Hill today and from various police forces who sometimes face significant challenges, including first responders. So we absolutely respect areas of provincial jurisdiction, and we'll continue to work with our partners. But today, let's take the time to recognize the challenges that our first responders face in sometimes difficult and tragic situations. Thanks to them for doing a great job.
Mr. Speaker, across the country, we're seeing an increase in post-traumatic stress disorder and suicides among police, firefighters, and paramedics. 17 first responders have taken their lives so far in 2015. Canadians depend on these people to keep us safe, and in return, we have an obligation to ensure they have the resources they need. The issues of PTSD and suicide among first responders must be taken seriously. Instead of just claiming it's not part of their jurisdiction, will the Conservatives take concrete and specific actions to help address the health and safety needs of first responders?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we always take our responsibility seriously when it comes the time to support our police, our officer, our frontline officer, Mr. Speaker. That's why, despite the lack of support of the NDP, we've increased our funding, Mr. Speaker, and they are giving the opportunity to do so in supporting our budget, Mr. Speaker. This being said, operational stress injury, Mr. Speaker, are not only happening in the military sphere, but in all walk of life, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to work with our provincial partner, with our municipality to take the challenge, Mr. Speaker, but let's recognize the outstanding work that is done by our first responder, Mr. Speaker. They play a great role in our society, and we thank them for that.
The Honourable Member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives also neglected the tourism industry. Tourism is responsible for over 600,000 jobs in Canada. But over the last decade, Canada has dropped from 9 places as an international tourism destination, from 7th to a shameful 16th place. Under pressure, the Conservatives have finally decided to talk about recapturing the U.S. tourism market. But why did it take so long, and we still don't have a plan? Will the minister tell us exactly how much money will be invested in the Connecting America campaign?
The Honourable Minister of State for Small Business and Tourism.
Speaker, I'm pleased that the NPD at least they took some time to read the budget, and they know that we're putting more money in the tourism industry and more money in the U.S. for advertising, Mr. President. It's very true, and it's a good news because all the members of the industry ask us to put more money in the U.S. to be able to attract more U.S. travelers here in Canada, and that's something that we're going to do, and it's a done deal, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Quebec. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives stood by idly when American tourists started to abandon Canada. The Minister of Tourism even boasted about slashing the budgets of the Canadian Tourism Commission, which helps our industry abroad. This morning I tabled a motion before the Industry Committee to remind them that within the city of Quebec alone, tourism employs 15,000 people, and across the country it represents 600,000 jobs. We want a change, Mr. Speaker. Can they tell us how much they will invest in this?
Order. The Honourable Minister of State.
Mr. Speaker, the tourism industry is an $89 billion industry in Canada. It's a very important industry, and that is why, with my colleagues from the other provinces last fall, we had a consensus that was a pan-Canadian strategy. It's not the NDP, it's our government that has reached a consensus with the provinces to ensure that there is reinvestment in the U.S., and that's what we're going to do because we want to attract more American travelers who'll come and visit our beautiful country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, in today's digital economy, Canadians live in a world where access to the internet is essential to create jobs, to realize economic opportunities, and link Canadians to online services. Last summer, our government announced the Connecting Canadians program, which will connect 280,000 householders to affordable, high-quality broadband services. Can the Minister of Industry update this House on what other steps our government is taking to help connect rural and remote communities to high-speed, affordable telecommunications services?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We often forget, but we should remind ourselves that while Canada is the second largest country in size, we're the 37th largest in terms of population, and that means that our most rural, most remote and northern communities, often Aboriginal communities, are completely cut off from the rest of the country and indeed the rest of the world. And that's why today our government, we're proud to announce that we've made changes that will reduce regulatory fees for satellite companies that provide rural and remote communities access to satellite services. And this is essential for public safety, for economic opportunities, and to ensuring that all Canadians have equal access to the digital world.
The Honourable Member for Algoma, Manitoulin, on the Campus Case 2.
Mr. Speaker, the Aboriginal community of Shoal Lake has been forced to declare a state of emergency after the ferry that links them to the mainland, their only means of getting in and off of the reserve, failed the Transport Canada inspection because of its bad condition. The community, which has been under a boil water advisory for 17 years, has been asking for years to a long-term solution. Will the minister intervene immediately to allow this community to lift the state of emergency? Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, our immediate priority, of course, is to look after the health and safety of the residents of Shoal Lake, and that's why our emergency management team is being in constant communication with the community. We're going to continue to offer our assistance if the community needs it. Until now, we've had no request from them, but we are also working with First Nations and with Health Canada to ensure that the residents have access to medical services, and we are prepared to offer any necessary help.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister's response to emergencies is always too little too late. The state of emergency in Shoal Lake has been years in the making. Shoal Lake was cut off from the mainland in order to provide Winnipeg with clean drinking water, leaving them dependent on an unreliable ferry and dangerous ice roads. And for 17 straight years, they have been under boil water advisory. They need a year-round road to the mainland and potable water. Why does this government continue to fail First Nation communities like Saskatchewan and Shoal Lake? When will they finally take real action on infrastructure needs?
The Honourable Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, our government continues to take action so that First Nation across Canada have the same quality of drinking water as all Canadians, and that is why, since 2006, it's over approximately $3 billion that have been invested in First Nation water and wastewater infrastructure and related public health activities. We've made targeted investments in more than 130 major projects, and we have funded maintenance of over 1,200 water and wastewater treatment projects, and we will continue in that vein, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Thunder Bay, Rainy River.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Almost a decade after Conservatives took power Internet access in parts of rural ridings like mine still needs to be improved. Now, the government is only now introducing a new satellite fee structure. Now, in a country where telecom companies make huge profits and Canadians pay some of the highest fees in the developed world, I'm told by satellite companies Northern Ontario is not a priority. What is this government going to do to ensure that rural Canadians, like my constituents in Thunder Bay, Rainy River, get access to affordable, high-speed internet now?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
It's a good question, and I do respect the member's sincerity on the matter, but of course we have taken action as a government. I just mentioned the satellite fee structure that we've put in place, but of course beyond that, Mr. Speaker, our Connecting Canadians program, we've done an RFP, we've had a return from all of Canada. Our goal was to have 280,000 households connected, which would take us to over 99% of all households connected in Canada, and we've exceeded that with over 300 households. We're going to be making announcements next week, starting in Kenora, then we're going to go to the Columbia River Valley, we're going to go all across this country, and we're going to make sure that all Canadians are connected to high-speed internet all across the country.
The Honourable Member, Abitibi-Témiscamingue. There's a profound disparity between people in terms of high-speed internet access. For many people outside of major centres, access to high speed is simply inexistent or unaffordable. The Minister announced a reduction in the regulatory fees for operators, but nothing guarantees that the citizens, particularly those living in rural regions, will really have better service at a lower cost. Once again, we're in a dream world. When will the Minister take the needs of businesses and people living in rural regions seriously? The Honourable Minister of Industry. We've already taken this seriously. That is why we have put in the necessary amounts into this to broaden services for wireless in all regions of the country where there's high speed. We'll have announcements next week for all regions, including Quebec, and all Canadians will have the benefit of access to high-speed internet that's good quality, and we'll have more capacity in the future without any doubt. It will involve all Canadians.
Mr. Speaker, Corporal Esther Wolke took a knife and began cutting into her arm in an attempt to end her own life. A decade in the military, including a tour in Afghanistan, racism, and now sexual abuse, had finally broken this Inuk soldier. Corporal Wolke's experience is yet another disturbing example of this government's neglect of the women and men in uniform. Why are the Minister and Prime Minister sitting on the sidelines when action is urgently needed to fix what Justice Marie Deschamps called the culture of misogyny in the Canadian Armed Forces? Why the silence on the part of the Minister and the Prime Minister?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, sexual misconduct of any kind has no place in the Canadian Armed Forces. Major General Christine Whitecross is traveling to CFB Shiloh today and will discuss this case with the leadership at CFB Shiloh. She'll be assuring that Corporal Wolke has been offered and has access to the support that she deserves and requires. The Chief of the Defence Staff has accepted all the recommendations from the Deschamps report and is acting on them. Since 2006, our government has continuously fought on behalf of victims and enhanced the laws in this country to combat sexual assault.
The Honourable Member for Westmount Ville-Marie.
Mr. Speaker, journalists covering the Prime Minister's recent trip to Iraq were lectured about not broadcasting the faces of Canada's Special Forces soldiers. Doing so might endanger them. However, the PM's own online 24/7 propaganda channel has violated that rule. And this isn't the first time. 2 months ago, the Minister of Defence tweeted a picture of Special Forces soldiers carrying the coffin of Sergeant Doiron. What is wrong with this government endangering the lives of our soldiers? Is it blatant self-promotion or incompetence?
Both. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier today, and the member is listening, the safety of our troops is our #1 priority. And for this reason, there are protocols in place before images or videos are posted. We regret this error after reviewing all the protocols with respect to the publication of these images. These images have been reviewed and will not be reposted. And I can tell you that we're very proud of the work that the Special Operations Forces is doing in Iraq in training and assisting the Kurdish Peshmerga and Iraqi security forces in dealing with this genocidal death cult called ISIS.
Honourable Member for Pierrefonds-Dollard. Mr. Speaker, The Conservatives' Express Entry program has raised concerns in many ways, and this time it's the Fédération des communautés francophones et acadiennes that's sounding the alarm, saying that the program does not allow for Francophone immigrants who are enrolled to be really identified. Of the 22,000 people enrolled, only 2,200 are Francophones. That's barely 2%, whereas the target is 4% in terms of Francophone immigrants. With a program like this, how can the minister ensure that he'll reach his own objectives in terms of Francophone immigration? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government is proud of having been the only one in the history of Canada to have delivered more than 2,500 immigrants outside of Quebec to the provinces and territories since 2006 every year. And our new Express Entry program will allow us to identify many more Francophone immigrants and ensure that they arrive in all of the regions faster than ever. Mr. Speaker, we funded Francophone communities and the networks through the roadmap, and we are working to promote a Francophone presence across the country. The Honourable Member for Nickel Belt. Mr. Speaker, there's more bad news for Francophone communities outside of Quebec. The president of the Fédération des communautés francophones et acadiennes is denouncing the absence of incentives to increase the number of Francophone immigrants. At her last appearance before the Official Languages Committee, Ms. Kenny even called the situation of Francophone immigrants outside of Quebec as a scandal. She's requesting a major effort to be made immediately by the government to avoid a disaster for the communities. Will the government finally listen? The Honourable Minister of Citizenship and Immigration. Mr. Speaker, the scandal is the failure of the NDP to recognize the progress that's been made in this domain. This Conservative government is the only one in the history of Canada to have accepted more than 2,500 Francophone immigrants. We don't even know how many immigrants come through Quebec programs and settle in other provinces. That we have strengthened our capacity with all of the Francophone network's ability to receive immigrants across the country in every province and in every territory.
Saskatoon-Humboldt. Mr. Speaker, Canadian families in my constituency of Saskatoon-Humboldt are pleased with the government delivering on results for 100% of Canadian families with children through our family tax cut and universal child care benefit. Can the Minister of Employment please update this House on how our plan is delivering for hard-working, middle-class Canadian families?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, our family tax cut and benefits helps 100% of families with kids. Family tax cut through income splitting will put up to $2,000 in the pockets of couples. The universal child care benefit will grow to $2,000 per year for kids under 6 and $720 for kids 6 through 17. The Liberals have announced that they would raise taxes on families. They would replace the family tax cut with a Liberal family tax hike. They would roll back the tax-free savings accounts, Mr. Speaker. And even after all that, they admit that they have a $2 billion hole. Mr. Speaker, we're lowering taxes for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for York West.
Mr. Speaker, raising the age of old age security from 65 to 67 is nothing short of a Conservative attack on seniors. Conservatives claim that all seniors are flush with cash, but we know the opposite is true. Seniors and those nearing retirement make up more than 30% of bankruptcy filings in Ontario and have more debt than younger people. Many others face growing debt and tight cash flows. Doubling the TFSA limits will be of no help to seniors filing bankruptcy. Why do the Conservatives have such contempt for Canada's seniors?
Good question. Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, for seniors who have just downsized and wants to invest the proceeds of their sale, or seniors that have had one spouse pass away and a small inheritance following, the tax-free savings accounts allow them to save, and that's why almost two-thirds of those who max out their tax-free savings accounts have incomes below $60,000. But the Liberal plan has a $2 billion hole, and that means they will not only have to eliminate income splitting for families, but they will also eliminate it for seniors. Raising taxes on vulnerable seniors is the last thing we should be doing, Mr. Speaker. We should lower their taxes.
The Honourable Member for London Sancho.
Speaker, last month the Minister of National Defence committed to considering the proposal from the Duchess of Kent Legion in London to move into the officers' mess at Wolseley Barracks. Like so many legions across Canada that care for and reach out to our veterans, the contribution of this legion to the London community and our veterans is immeasurable. But time is running out, Mr. Speaker. Has the Minister made a decision on the proposal? If not, when can the Legion and the community expect an answer?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, properties are regularly assessed to ensure they meet all requirements. In this case, these buildings are aging infrastructure that is almost 60 years old and is no longer suitable or required for the Canadian Armed Forces. Government of Canada remains fully committed to a military presence in London. This includes the Joint Personnel Support Unit, the Military Family Resource Centre, and the Reserve Force units and medical and dental clinics located there. This government will continue to use taxpayer dollars wisely to stand up for our forces.
Member for Yukon.
Mr. Speaker, the opposition party sadly oppose our tax cuts for northern families and instead propose tax hikes on the middle class. Of course, they even support a carbon tax, which will make life far more difficult for northern families. Mr. Speaker, when the Liberals were in government, they failed to meet the obligations to the people in Nunavut and...
Order. The member should know that questions should touch on the administrative responsibilities of government, not other parties. So we'll move on to the Honourable Member for Thunder Bay, Superior North.
Mr. Speaker, 126 First Nation reserves have unsafe drinking water. In Scandinavia and Europe, 0 communities have unsafe drinking water. One such reserve is Shoal Lake 40 in Thunder Bay Rainy River, who've had to boil their water for 17 years. They want to know, the Council of Canadians wants to know, why does Winnipeg get safe water from Shoal Lake while the First Nations on that very same lake do not?
The Honourable Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, our government continues to take action on First Nation across Canada so that they have the same quality of drinking water as all other Canadians. And that is why, since 2006, we have invested approximately $3 billion in First Nation water and wastewater infrastructure and related public health activities. We've made targeted investments in more than 130 major projects and funded maintenance of over 1,200 water and water treatment projects. As a matter of fact, in the Economic Action Plan of 2014, we committed a further $320 million for 2 years.
The Honourable Member for Paris-Chaudieu-Nicolet-Bécancour. Mr. Speaker, for almost 10 years following a motion put forward by the Bloc Québécois that was unanimously passed in this House, the Canadian negotiation policy obliged negotiators to keep the supply management system intact. The government has repeatedly stated that it defends this policy and will defend this policy. Now we'll see that the Prime Minister has stated that we'll have to make sacrifices within the framework of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Everything indicates that the federal government is getting ready to sacrifice supply management. Can the Minister of International Trade confirm to us that the negotiators' mandate is still that defined by the motion voted unanimously on in the House put forward by the Bloc? Mr. Speaker, what the Bloc did for agricultural producers in Quebec and Canada? Nothing. What will the Bloc Québécois do for those same producers? Nothing, Mr. Speaker. What have we done since 2006 is to negotiate free trade agreements to ensure that we have economic freedom while at the same time protecting the principles of supply management. This is a tangible result, and I say to the agricultural producers of Quebec, the past will be a guarantee of the future.
That concludes question period for today. I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of, in the category of Distinguished Canadians, this University of Ottawa alumnus is the honorary chair of the campaign cabinet of the University of Ottawa and the popular host of Jeopardy, who is Alex Trebek. What's that? I did. The honourable member, opposition House Leader, is rising on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, last week you allowed a question from a Conservative to a Conservative minister that touched on the Avon-Maitland District School Board, whether or not they would be providing unpaid leave to an employee. Now, Mr. Speaker, I can give you many, many other examples of Conservative questions to Conservative ministers that have absolutely nothing to do with the federal government at all. Government operations, government administration, but those questions are allowed. Today, we had two very relevant and pertinent questions from the member from Pointe-à-l'Île and the member from Timmins, James Bay. Those questions touch on the Ministry of Justice. They touch on the work of the Auditor General currently in examining the Senate spending scandal. And even more importantly, Mr. Speaker, the Senate scandal and the spending scandals and the Prime Minister's appointment of those senators are actually issues that have been debated in this House of Commons around appropriations bills. Now, Mr. Speaker, as you know, Bill C-54 was adopted Royal Assent on March 24th, 2015. That was a bill that was debated in this House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, there are traditions